So yeah, back at it. BDF 44. This is the second part of the previous one. I said I need to create space. Did that. We're back. I got 26 minutes. I may use them all. So yeah, it's one of those situations where I just, as I'm thinking about myself and how I experience life, I realize um, how I've come to the conclusion that I'm dealing with something that is not normal as it pertains to my mind. That there is something to diagnose. As I think about the different traits that I have, I think about the different things that come naturally and normal to me. Um, Being on the edge as it pertains to letting certain things in my life deteriorate. No one, I believe, in their right mind is going to allow certain things to happen that I've allowed to happen. You know what I mean? And I try to get to the bottom of that because I really don't have anybody else here or have not put myself in a position to get that diagnosis. So I try to look in different things and try to grasp it for myself, which is what these therapy sessions are about. Try self-diagnose, self-treat, and fix. But that's not the way I would suggest anyone else go. You need to uh, allow others in, whether it be professionals or family members or whatever. But because of the environment that I've created for myself in isolation, there's no one here. Now, I don't want that to mean to you guys that I don't have anybody. That would not be true. I got plenty of people I can call. Just the reality is I just don't know them well enough to bring all of this to them, nor am I selfish enough to think that whatever they have going on needs whatever it is that I got going on top of it. You know what I mean? If someone truly loves you, the last thing you want to do is be a burden to them. And because I have trouble helping myself, all they can really do is allow me to lean on them. And I just don't think that that's a way to love others. It's the same reason why I haven't called my family and asked them to help me financially, because I don't think there's any end to it. The edge that I'm on right now is the same edge I'll be on later on when I run out of whatever money they give me. Do you see what I'm saying? I have to deal with this. I have to deal with this, and that's what it is. It's like I let my car go. I'm damn near letting my apartment go. I didn't go to school to get education knowing I needed it. I didn't stay working, even though I know working is what put me in a position to build what it is that I have, that I try so hard to hold on to. The only process of having it, the only reason why I even have all of this is because I was working. So it's the part that also makes me think that I'm dealing with something that is awry in my own brain, something off, chemical or what have you, is because I know that there is fruit in the wisdom of not letting things get this bad. I think that most people who make the decisions I make have either ignored that fruit or don't know of it. They may be oblivious to what can go wrong or be oblivious to the understanding that it's them causing these issues. I'm never lacking in that self-awareness or the fruit in having that self-awareness, in making it clear to yourself that it is yourself causing these things. I had no problem doing that, and so it's like, I think the anticipation of things, and you guys already know this, you've heard this a couple times, I think the anticipation of AMC squeezing in the amount of money I could get, possibly allowing me to retire early, coupled that with the unhappiness of doing what it is that I did, coupled with the understanding that I have the potential to do greater things in our artistic nature, that could make me some money, it just makes me feel like working ultimately should not be something I'm forcing myself to do. Now, that doesn't mean that if I don't work, I get to eat, but it does mean that in my mind, I can convince myself that I'll find a way and just continue the process of not doing what needs to be done. That in and of itself is a problem. So I have to figure that out. That of which doesn't allow me to get the help that I need, I think is also a part of the problem. I think that's also part of the sickness, I guess you could say. Because anybody, would suggest to you, hey, you need to reach out and get some help. If you don't help yourself, no one else is going to help you. That's not a concept lost to me. It's the initiation of that help that is not working. You know what I mean? And that's what it's always been for me. So I would also go through the process of receiving that information from others. Why don't you just do this? My mom would often tell me, why don't you just go down the street and do this? Why don't you just apply for the job? I'm sure you'll get it. You speak very well. You can get any job you want. You could probably price yourself above the game in certain cases. You could show people that you have the ability to learn, and they may give you a job that you're not even qualified for. Those are things I already know. Those are things I couldn't initiate in myself to do. And I guess that was the part where it's like other people would just kind of lose faith in me, because it's like, well, if you know what you're supposed to be doing and you're not going to do it, then what am I wasting my time for? I think it got to that point with my mom. It was like, after having so many conversations about understanding the importance of education and the importance of a paper trail, even if you don't like school, you still need to be able to prove that you can learn and that you have learned. And that paper trail will allow you opportunities in this world. Like, all of that was stuff I knew. I knew all of that because she preached that to me on a regular basis. Before I even started having these struggles, I understood that wisdom. Couldn't bring myself to do it. You know what I mean? And when you don't stop processes, like when you don't stop those patterns as they're starting to form, they don't get better over time. That's what I can tell you, you know. And I don't know that I knew how to stop that. I don't know that my mother knew how to stop that. And it was only us, you know what I mean? So it was one of those situations where I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. But I continued to live my life, you know what I mean? I would deal with this, but then at the same time, I would be able to get distracted from it as well. Friends would be present, so I go hang out with my buddies, you know what I mean? Different things would happen to where I would just simply not be in that space. Why there was no consistency to that is a mystery to me. You know, why there were pockets at a time in my life where I worked jobs for 3 years, or went to school for a good long period of time, or went back to school and got my GED. I really can't explain to you why I was able to not be that way at certain times in my life, which only further confused others. You know what I mean? It was like, well, you tell me you got these problems, but you didn't have them problems when you were hanging with us. You tell me you have these issues, but I just watched you do this, and this. I mean, we went to Magic Mountain like many times as kids. We went to this. You never had any anxiety issues. You spent the night over our house for 3-4 days, never had any issues. I can never explain to anybody why there's no consistency to any of this. I don't know. I literally do not know. You know, even in listening to my video last time when I was telling you guys that, you know, I had issues talking to females and never allowing myself to be rejected. But I'll tell you the truth, I've also had several 2-year relationships. You know what I mean? Like, certain things that there's no rhyme or reason to it at all. It's very, very random. All of my issues and my sicknesses and my things that I've gone through and my problems, they're all random, you know? It's like, I can't seem to figure out what the pattern is. I'd imagine there is a pattern. And I would, if I'm to dig deep, I'd probably imagine it would be a trigger point that would push me back into this space, and maybe a trigger point that would snap me out of it. I haven't done enough thinking to figure it out, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because like I said, there's plenty of times where this just wasn't there. None of these issues were there, you know? Long periods of time, too, to be honest with you. Hanging out with different friends and things of that nature, we had regular, consistent times where I would be over homies' houses, friends' houses. No anxiety. None. You know, going out, doing things, having long periods of time, you know, working and stuff like that. No problems. But then I would snap into it, like I'm in it now, and then can't do nothing for myself, or will convince myself that I can't do the things necessary to fix my situation. So there's no rhyme or reason, man. And that's what makes me wonder if what I'm dealing with is rare. That's what makes me think whatever it is that I got going on ain't gonna be found too often. It's complicated, man. That's what it is. It's very complex. I'm very complex. But I'm also very monotonous. You know, I had to take a look at myself about a few things. So, for example, I'm the type of person, as you probably look around, I don't know how much in my apartment I allowed you to see. I don't really look at my apartment very much on this camera or what have you, but things will stay in the same place for very, very long periods of time. I'm the type of guy who will use the same plate, same glass, but I'll have 40 glasses and 40 plates. But the only ones I use are the ones I use. I don't know why that is. Stuff like that, man. Stuff like that. It just there's no real understanding of why I operate this way. You know, stuff will sit in a corner for 3 and 4 years. It's just a consistency. As long as I know where everything is, I'm fine type of thing, you know. I like variety too. As an artist, I'm starting to realize that I'd like more of a creative way about myself. I would much rather be able to uh, decorate things, you know, create some type of artistic nature about everything that I do, you know, get different colors, different all kinds of stuff, but I just don't do it. I think a lot of it had to do with the budget, really, not having the money to do it. Every time I got money, I wouldn't think about pouring it into that, you know what I mean? When I had my mother's money at the time when she passed away, left me something, and I was able to access it. What I did was fall into this. Instead of taking that money and doing things that can make my life better, I just looked at it as a lifeline to stay isolated. As long as I had money, I could pay my rent. I didn't have a car note at the time. The car I had was paid off, so I never had to worry about that. And I would just, you know, let the money dissipate over time. It wasn't like I would, okay, I got a project, I can do this, or I can invest in that, or let me go get myself some clothes, let me go. None of that. It was just, okay, this amount can buy me this much time to stay by myself and not work, which is safety for me, which is comfort in isolation for me. It's like, yes, I can do that. Yay. You know, I don't have to deal with nobody or nothing. I think that's kind of how I'm looking at getting some money now. Like, it's not that I'm looking to really do anything different. It's just buys me time to be able to stay in isolation without asking anybody for anything or having to go anywhere. Have it all brought to me and just be comfortable like that. And as long as I can buy time that way, for whatever reason, I find a great deal of comfort in that. So, you know, that desire for isolation, it only grows as you continue to stay alone. But the anxieties that come with having to face stresses and the consequences of that isolation grows as well. So you become more and more dependent on that isolation. And that's the difference between now and at that time. You know, that's the difference. That's why this is much worse, because now I'm having everything brought to me. And at that time, I would at least find myself once a week going to the grocery store, once a week going this or that place because, you know, buy my weed or whatever. I would always have somewhere to go at least once a week to snap me out of that isolation. As to where now, no. I've left the house probably twice or 3 times in the last 5 months. It's the truth. And I feel so comfortable in that way. And I think the only reason why the stress that I'm finding is coming my way is because I've run out of money. And now now it's like, okay, now you got to dip into what it is that you've been saving. Now you got to dip into what it is you've been working on, AMC, in order to make life happen for yourself. And that in and of itself causes stress because I've gone through what I've gone through, or put myself through so that I could hold those shares and ultimately give myself a chance at what it is I'm dreaming about. But the fruit in going back to work to build that position isn't there. And that's the part about all of this that makes me also think I'm dealing with something that ain't making any sense. You know what I mean? It's like, as much as you love holding AMC, I could have doubled or tripled my shares if I would have kept working. And the desire to work was fueled by being able to do that. Now, once I crashed out of that job and crashed my mind into a space where I no longer could do it, being able to snap back into it, or being able to go back to work and wanting to go back to work to do what it is that I was ultimately doing, just didn't initiate. It just didn't happen. I didn't want it anymore, I guess. I more so just wanted to be alone, you know? And as I've told you guys, if you were watching my earlier, like my first couple of therapy sessions, to me, it wasn't necessarily me saying, I don't want to go back to work. I felt spiritually something was telling me to sit still and wait for this to happen. Now, I think looking back on it, it was my, it was fear, I guess. I don't think it's the word fear. I'm looking for something else. But it was that sickness, I guess you could say, that was telling me that. It was not a good energy that was saying, hey, you should sit home and not do anything and wait for Moaz to come. Mother of all short squeezes. I don't think that was a good a good spirit or a good consciousness of myself telling me that. I think it was the weakness in myself. I think it was the parts of myself that I need to eradicate that told me that. But at the time, I couldn't tell the difference. I was very much in my prayer life. I was very much in a space where I thought I was, doing the right things in terms of my spirit. And so I was listening to voices that was telling me or listening to a consciousness within myself that was telling me to do something that would enable me to become as sick as I am. So that's something that I have to really dig deep and find out what that was. You know what I mean? Really, like, I need to find out why I was telling myself to stop the process of building my position. So, I think there's a lot of things that need to be sorted through. I think there's some things that I'm not going to be able to access on my own, and that's ultimately why I'm encouraging everybody to do what it is that I've yet to do, which is, if you have any issues that you can't seem to sort through on your own, ask someone else to help you with that. I just received a text from my uncle this morning. I don't know if it's because he watched my therapy session. He may very well be watching himself. I don't know. I welcome anybody to watch. All of my family, anybody that comes across these, it would probably be best for you to watch this, because it'll help you understand who I am a bit better than I've ever allowed you to. It's about 30, I think it's like the 39th one, 38th one or something like that. Watch them all. Watch all of them. And that'll give you an insight as to what I've been dealing with and what I've become. But all in all, at the end of the day, what he was saying was that I need to not do things on my own. I need to allow Jesus to guide the way. I think that's what I'm telling you I thought was going on when I initially decided to become this isolated person. I was listening to what I thought was a prayerful energy coming to me in peace, telling me I'd already succeeded in what I had done, and now the only thing left to do was wait. A lot of bad has happened because of that, but also a lot of good has taken place because of that. The good was discovering the visual arts. The good was the specific playlist that I was able to create. The good was the different moments that I found that provided me peace, such as the month of September, where I created a little area for myself in the other end of my apartment, where I put some candles down and turn off the lights, turn on some music, and just light up my wedding cake. Like, those were different vibes that I created and found solely in this particular isolated period. So a lot of good, I think, has come from this. These therapy sessions would have never been done if I would have kept working and stuff like that. So I always see that there have been good things that I found in this isolated period. However, a lot of bad has happened too. Having my car taken and then getting it back, which cost me shares, and then, of course, going through that process cost me more shares. Obviously, losing the car again. Allowing myself to get this sick in isolation, you know what I mean? To where I don't even like doing certain things that were very easy for me before I started this process. A lot of bad has happened too. So for me to say that following this voice provided me the right what's the word? Consequences would be false. That would be false. I don't think that this was worth it at all. I don't think this was good for me at all. But I did find some good things in it. So I think all in all, that's really what my family has always said: rely on God. I remember my grandmother, his mother, before she passed, she told me that she wanted me to have a better relationship with God. I just don't think they realize my relationship with God is very strong. My prayer life is the only thing that has really been consistent outside of just being alive. It's the fact that I've continued to pray over and over and over again every day for not only myself and others and stuff like that. My relationship with God is as good as I know how to make it. Now, there are some things I can do for myself that can kind of eliminate certain things that I need to eliminate that would probably bring me closer to God. But I have to be strong enough to make those decisions within myself. And as of yet, haven't figured that part out yet. So maybe that's clogging my spirit to a degree if you believe in that sort of thing. But even if you don't, I think discipline and consistency in meditation can be good for any brain. I really believe that. And I've tried to practice that. So I don't know how else to do it. And I don't really know how else to please them in that way. You know what I mean? It's not that I think I'm trying to please them. It's just to satisfy them, that notion in them. Do I have that relationship with God? Am I following God? I believe I already am. And I believe that, dare I say, that's kind of what put me in this mess. So if you're watching, that's what it is. Like, it's not that I don't have God. It's that I just can't seem to figure out which one is him. Is the side of him telling me to sit in this house and get sicker? Is that really God, or is that the sickness itself disguising itself as God? And if so, why would God allow such a thing? All of this stuff is beyond me, and to be honest with you, it just makes you question your faith in general. More than anything, I just feel myself to be mentally ill, and trying to explain that to my mother, trying to explain that to my grandmother, trying to explain that to my uncle. I don't think they get it. I think that's the I think that's the elephant in the room. I think my family might be in denial about just how severe my mental illness is, which is understandable. When you love somebody, you want to know that they're going to be okay. You know what I mean? But it's not a spiritual lacking. I don't lack spirituality, man. I lack the ability to control my own anxiety and my own fears and these different various things that keep me in this house. I can't seem to turn that off. So that's what it is, man. And it hurt my feelings in the past when my grandmother told me, if you had a better relationship with Christ, I would allow you to stay in this apartment. For which she told me she was trying to sell the condo I was in, etc. I told you guys all about that. And it bothered me a lot because I felt like, I couldn't have more of a relationship with God at that time. It was the only thing that was keeping me going. My mother had just passed away. I had just gotten evicted from my apartment. I was dealing with what I'm dealing with now in some various different ways, and I was about to be living in my car. And my grandmother was telling me that I needed a relationship with Christ to keep that from happening. It was like, it's Christ is keeping me in a space where I don't want to commit to leaving the earth. Like, how could you come to the conclusion that I don't have a relationship with Christ when you see me dealing with all of this and I'm not crying? I'm not pulling my hair out. I'm not doing anything drastic. I'm not putting anybody in danger. Like, the type of stress that I felt, if I didn't have Christ, who knows how bad it would be, but for whatever reason, they didn't come to the conclusion that I did. And so that just made me want to stay isolated from them, because it's like I'm dealing with people that don't understand me or in denial about what I'm going through. And I don't necessarily think that can help me. You know what I mean? I need somebody who says, okay, this dude is sick. Let me try to work from an angle that'll help him there, rather than, okay, his spirit is off. If he gets his spirit right, then he'll be fine. No. No, we're dealing with very, very specific issues that I have no idea what it is. If anything, I need somebody to walk me into a place to get some damn help. And they weren't doing that. So it is what it is. But those people didn't grow up around me, so they didn't know. You know what I mean? It's not like they grew in a household with me, saw all the struggles, and came to conclusions. If anything, they just listened to my mother's version of what she was telling them over the years, which left them an understanding of who I was. Or rather, a misunderstanding of who I was. Because to be completely honest with you, I don't think my mother really understood what she was looking at either. So rather, she would just come at them and tell them, my son don't want to go to school. My son don't want to listen to me. My son would rather go to the police station than go to school. Like, she didn't know how to articulate, my son is having a very difficult time controlling himself and doing what it is he knows he should, so that he doesn't end up ruining his life. She didn't get that, so she couldn't tell them that. And I wasn't communicating with them, so I couldn't tell them that. And if I did communicate with them, that certainly wasn't what was coming out of my mouth. But at 37 years old, I can articulate it very clearly. That's exactly what it is. I can't initiate in my brain what should be done despite knowing it needs to be done to save my own life. Okay? There you go. That's what it is. And I would love to change that. I see the fruit in changing that. I think if I change that, I can help other people. I think if I change that, I can help myself. So may that be ever so clear to the wide world. That is what Brandon has dealt with. BDF 44 has been dealing with that his entire life. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not even mad at myself for it anymore. I'm not mad at others for not understanding it. But I am in a place where I can articulate it. And this is what it is. That's why I'm waiting for an eviction notice. That's why my car's not in my garage. That's why I don't have a job. That's why my shares are at risk. That's why my health is probably not as great as it should be. That's why all of this is because I cannot turn that part on properly and keep it on, even though I fear the consequences of not having it on. And for the longest, I would allow myself to beat myself up over that. I would beat myself up. I would do like everybody else. Why can't I do it? I'm lazy. They're right. Hate yourself for all that. It would turn into self-loathing. I don't hate myself anymore. I just understand myself to be ill. That's it. I'm just sick. That's all. And it may be brain damage, it may be chemical, it may be anything. But what it's not is a lack of wisdom or an understanding or a lack of desire even. I no longer think I deserve what's happening to me. I no longer think I deserve to have put myself through what I put myself through. And that's the difference between now and any other time in my life. All these other times I was confused about that. Now, as I hold myself accountable for not getting help, that's really all I allow myself to hold myself accountable for, because everything else is a byproduct of the sickness itself. And that's just what it is. You know, when you don't get help, you don't get help. So as I speak to you guys, I realize I'm now running out of time again. But I think this is probably one of the best therapy sessions because it was able to effectively articulate exactly what it is I've been dealing with. And with that, I hope that you guys can take this as a case study. Maybe if you're a psychologist yourself, shoot me a line, tell me what you think you see. I'm open for all of that. But at the end of the day, I just don't want people to think that I don't know any better. My mother raised me well enough to know exactly what I should be doing. And she would get very frustrated with me, just like I would get frustrated with myself for not doing it. But at the end of the day, this is the uniqueness of this brain. And until I figure a way to fix it, this is probably going to be what causes a lot of things for me. So we're out of time, man. 9 more seconds. Thank you all for watching BDF 44. I'm out.